Welcome back to the Sellware Getting Started series. This is a continuation of our previous series on creating listing templates. We're going to break this one up into two sections and this time focus on Amazon listing templates. If you're interested in eBay, that is the previous episode that we recorded. We're going to do a quick recap of listing templates in general and then jump right into eBay listings. So to recap, what are listing templates? Why do you need them? How do you use them? And getting through any of your errors, debuggings, or general familiarity with creating listing templates. Again, not required if you are linking to existing listings, as long as your Sellware SKU is linked to an Amazon or eBay SKU, you can continue to use your existing listings or link them to keep them in sync for other pieces of information besides price and inventory. So what are listing templates? Templates are simply tools that you use to place your data into the specific marketplace, in this case Amazon. Amazon does have some very strict requirements around how you can place your items into their market. You do need to use, in most instances, things like UPC codes. ASINs are the best if you know them. EAN or a GTIN of some sort in order to be able to put it in the proper category and have Amazon accept it. If you are going to generate listings from Sellware into a marketplace, you need to have at least one template in order to do so. But as mentioned previously, if you have existing listings in Amazon, by simply linking them to the SKU within Sellware, which is tied to your marketplace, we can keep everything in sync for you and you don't have to generate your listings from Sellware. For folks with a bit more advanced requirements or that are using a major package like a Magento platform or a NetSuite platform, or just have large catalogs or hybrid system setups, we can support you in that method. We can do a variety of work around your account to automatically map to listings, to generate listings directly from your ERP platform or from CSV files, and this is typically done for folks that have very large catalogs. It is an advanced feature and does require a little bit of work with our onboarding team to get that set up, but for folks with larger catalogs, it is definitely a worthwhile investment. So why do you need to use listing templates? Again, they provide critical data that you're going to send to the marketplaces. They also allow you to increase your sell-through on those marketplaces by passing in unique information that may differ from channel to channel. In this instance on the screen here, you can see that on a Shopify listing, they have one set of product description and titles and price. On the Amazon channel, a completely different title and description and price, and on eBay, a different description and price. So by using these listing templates, combining with that data that is collected either in your primary channel or within Sellware, you can basically direct optimize listings to all the marketplaces and keep everything on sync on the back end for inventory control, price control, and product information control. So the good news about Amazon listing templates are they are much more straightforward to create than an eBay template. There are fewer fields to pass, fewer categories without all of the mandatory and optional attributes that go along with the different categories, and fewer fields that you can pass. The not so good news is they are much more structured than eBay templates. For example, almost everything you're going to try to list in Amazon either requires an exemption, an ASIN number, or a valid UPC code with matching data. It is a very structured catalog. They do a lot of checking and indexing of the data to make sure that you're putting everything in the proper category and just trying to keep a much better handle on how things are cataloged. So in general, you must have a UPC code or an EAN or some other GTIN code, or simply reference the ASIN. The ASIN is Amazon's standard identification number, and there are a number of tools and resources you can use to look those up. One of the biggest challenges that folks often run into are listing in different departments and using things called item key types, which are basically, if you're in a particular category like shoes, the item key types will tell you that that's going to be women's shoes heels, or sporting goods might be lacrosse sticks. So those are things that are all inside of your Seller Central, and so as long as you're familiar with those, you'll have a much easier time navigating Sellware. One thing to note, the feedback loop in Amazon is a little bit longer than eBay. There's a process in which we send the data to Amazon in a big batch. Then you have to wait for that to be processed. Amazon returns codes to us. So generally when you're listing in Amazon, initially you're going to want to have Seller Central open so that you can keep a handle on what's going on real time. These are just a few links to some resources inside of Seller Central. Over on our knowledge bank, there is a link that will take you to most of these articles, but most folks, when they do run into issues listing with Amazon, 99% of the time it is related to either the UPC code, the EAN, the GTIN, or the ASIN. So these are just some links for your reference. In Amazon, if you list by ASIN, it is the simplest and most straightforward process. All you need to do is provide the ASIN, your prices and quantities, and it will link to that existing ASIN and put you in the queue. When listings fail, as mentioned, it's usually related to a UPC code. Either you have a UPC code that is been previously used under a different category or with a different manufacturer. You can't make up UPC codes or not provide them unless you have an exemption within Amazon. They're pretty strict about the format that they require and the data checking that they do. So here's a link to some resources that you can use if you're having any trouble. Different categories in Amazon have different requirements. So depending on what category you're in, from automotive to accessories to clothing to electronics, certain levels of categories require UPCs. Others will require or be a little bit easier for you to get an exemption in. That's something Seller Central can help, and again, some more resources for you to review. Inside of sellware.com/learn, if you just do a quick keyword search on Amazon listing FAQs, we'll give you the links to these directly as well. So like in eBay, Amazon listing templates are a little bit of art and a little bit of science. We recommend starting with a few templates and take a step back, think about how you might be able to optimize the process, create either a more generic template or a more specific template depending on your business model, and then just adjust them as appropriate. Ideally, 6 to a dozen might be enough. It really just depends on the nature of your business. When listing, if you continue to run into errors or issues, oftentimes by just generating that listing directly inside of Seller Central, you'll get an Amazon warning screen recommendation or a much more detailed error message saying, for example, you're not allowed to post into the shoe category under the Nike brand unless you have permission from Nike and get an exemption or authorization. So they'll point that out to you based on the keyword Nike and give you a link that you can go to fill out and try to request an exemption of some sort. And like in eBay, we can do bulk listings or item-specific listings. So we have the bulk listing tool, just like we did in eBay, where you simply provide the site that you're selling into, the category you're trying to sell into, a UPC, and then some other information to help Amazon put that in the appropriate category. So that might be the item key types that we discussed, the title that you're going to use if you are the first to generate into a category and have permission to do that. Then it will basically, you will be the creator of the ASIN, and whatever information you provide will be used to create that ASIN. So you're going to need things like product name, descriptions, I believe at least one bullet point these days, as well as your images. So if you're creating a bulk listing via the bulk listing process, you'd put that information in here. We also allow you to do item-specific listings. So you could take a particular item and push it into that bulk category that we just showed, but then augment the information based on a particular item. So these may be things that you want to have be a little bit more unique. So an instance of when you might want to do this is you have a fast seller or a new popular product and you want to push it into Amazon but mark up the price a little bit more than you would normally do for the other items in that category. Or if you wanted a unique bullet point or a unique description or a different shipping group. So if this is a ships fast overnight for free versus a heavy item that may require crating, palletizing, and it's calculated shipping. So you could use shipping groups just on this particular item. So let's review a listing template in Amazon. So we'll go to listing templates, And in this case, I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to title this variant size and for running shoes. So if I sold lots of running shoes and I wanted to have a template to bulk list those all, I could set that up here. I'm going to pull up a list of macros. Remember, those macros are basically shortcuts that you use to reference coming down from your primary channel. In most cases, we will do the heavy lifting and map those to the appropriate categories. So UPC is UPC, but you wouldn't necessarily need to pull that for every field. If it exists in your primary channel, we will try and pull it for you automatically. If we didn't pull it or it's called something different, the list of macros will show you what to call it, or when you go to push this listing, Amazon will return an error and say you're missing such and such field. So for shoes, shoes go in the clothing category. So we'll put those in the clothing category. If you were listing by ASIN, you could simply put in the ASIN here and you would be done. Or reference the ASIN. In this case, we're going to do a scenario listing by UPC code. Since I am doing UPC code, I have to fill in more information. Remember, we mentioned that word item type keyword previously. That is something, if you are attempting to originate a listing, that you may be asked to provide. So what will happen is when you provide a UPC code, it will look for that UPC code, see if it finds a match, checks the data to make sure that's the right category, and then you'll link it to an existing ASIN. If that doesn't find an ASIN, it will attempt to create the ASIN for you, in which case you need to provide a little bit more information like item type keywords. So inside of your Amazon Seller Central account, if you type in the browser tree guide, you will be taken to a link, how to classify your products. From here, you'll be taken to some inventory file templates. This is for product creation and matching. If you're only doing matching, you don't have to worry about it, but in most cases, you're going to want to try to create a listing if it doesn't find a match. So from here, you'll go into these descriptions. If I was looking for clothing and accessories, the clothing and accessory browser tree guide downloads into Excel, and it will look something like this. So if I typed in the word running type in running shoes, it takes me to this category where the item type keyword is running shoes, and it goes in the men's department. So I would type in my running shoes here. And while I'm at it, I'll scroll down to the bottom here, go department men's. That gives Amazon the data that it needs to try and properly map this product to an ASIN, to create the ASIN, or find the appropriate ASIN for you to connect to. A bit more information, we'll scroll back up to the top and finish this out. So if you knew that you were going to link to an existing ASIN, you wouldn't necessarily need to provide any of this information like title, brand, or manufacturer. You would simply pull whatever is within the existing listing. But I would recommend, if you have the information, type it in here now so that you don't have to worry about going back and debugging it later. And then I could go back into my products grid. I could select all of those if those all were going to be men's, to that men's template we just created. And I could say perform on selected, create this listing, and we will send that to that Amazon category we just created for running shoes. And I hit confirm here, and those would all be sent to Amazon to be listed. So after you submit that listing to Amazon, in the upper right hand corner will be the green listing box you can click on, and that will take you to the batches that are in process. Remember, you might want to have Seller Central open because it does take a little bit of time for the round trip of the data posts to come through. Often in Amazon it's broken up into as many as 6 or 7 different batches. So it can take a little while before it'll eventually show back up in Sellware. So if you're looking at it inside of Seller Central, you can see this real time. So in this instance, what we're looking at here, I sent 14 records back up to Amazon. 14 of them were successful. So they were all successful. So you'll see it get through all of these steps here. Even though you do see error messages, that doesn't mean that they've failed. Oftentimes what it'll be looking through is the various data points to see if you're trying to link to an existing ASIN, looking for a UPC code. So you may error out on something that's irrelevant. At the end of the day, what you want to do is just look back out to your items. If it is a variant item, you may have submitted one item, but it had 7 different sizes, so you'd actually see 8 records that were posted. But ultimately, at the end of this, you can go back into your record, open up the children, I'll show you that in a moment, or simply look in Seller Central to make sure that they all showed up properly. If you do want to see what the requests are when an error has happened, and usually if it fails, it's going to fail very fast. Like in this case, it failed, that one went through fine. If it fails, it's usually going to fail right out of the gate like this. So we'll take a look at the error message. They're a lot easier to see these error messages inside of an XML viewer of sorts, but really what I'm looking at here, which is highlight, it just said this particular SKU didn't match any existing ASIN, so it went through that lookup process and said, okay, if you want me to create a UPC for you, you need to give me some more information, some attributes. So that really will tell you the error messages. Then you can go back out and provide additional information for the UPC, or go find the ASIN and try to list it again. We're pretty deep here in the weeds, so if you do have a problem with a particular item, like I said, go into Amazon Seller Central directly, try and list it there. Likely what you're going to find is you're trying to post either into a protected category or gated category, or you're trying to post to a brand in which you need permission, or you simply have a bad UPC code, one that's either been reused or is no good. So trying that with inside of Seller Central will usually give you exactly the information that you need. So let's take one more look at the listing at the item level. So we're adding some specific information at an item level to send to an Amazon listing. So I'm just going to expand on this item here. It's parent-child relationship. So I click on the plus symbol. I can see all of the different sizes that I have, from 8s to 7s to 9s, etc. I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit more. Each one of these would link out to the parent listing in Amazon, because I did list this as a variant. And we'll drill down into the parent level real quick and augment this data at the item level. So remember, we have those tabs across the top. I'm going to drill into the Amazon tab, because what I want to do, let's say that this is a shoe that's either pretty rare or very popular now, and everyone on Amazon is basically marking up their price. Rather than the race to the bottom. Sometimes it's refreshing when you can have a premium priced product. So we'll scroll down here. I would want to send this particular item to the size and color with a UPC code. And then as I scroll down here, my price that it was going to put it at, but instead of doing that, I'm going to say plus $10. So that would make that a $79 shoe instead of a $69 shoe. And let's say that I wanted to use one of my shipping groups that I had set up in Amazon, and that's priority free. So it's going to be overnight free shipping, comparable to, say, to the Prime, so I can be a little bit more competitive there. And I could simply hit save and publish, and that would submit this to Amazon to be published with that data here that is going to override the data that is in my UPC manufacturing and shoe template. Okay, so that's a way you can augment particular items. So this may not be something you do often depending on your business model. You may just be doing bulk listings, but if you're doing a lot of one-offs or just have small batches of items that you're either have similar to, so you could copy this item and just change a few attributes, or if you did have something that you just wanted to do differently, this is how you could set that up at the item level. So I can also go, now I'll go jump back out to my other listings, go to my active listings here, and now you can just take a look through all of the different items that you have listing by product, category, channel, price, etc. Notice we have a combination of items that are listed directly on Amazon that Sellware did not originate. So these are existing listings that may have been created inside of Amazon Seller Central Direct. I know that because this particular template field is empty. However, they are being managed by Sellware because the SKUs are linked. So you see that SKU to SKU relationship. So if those two sold out on eBay, they would be pulled down from Amazon, or if these two sold out from Amazon, they'd be pulled down from eBay, and as well as the primary channel. So that's the beauty of integrating Sellware, is you've got multiple channels that you can manage simultaneously, make your life a whole lot easier and avoid any of those dreaded penalties that you get from either selling the wrong items, stocked out items, or something not in stock. So that's a quick overview of selling on Amazon. We're going to go over to just a few questions that we get often, so we'll do a little frequently asked questions, and then we'll wrap this series up. So these are just a few questions that we get asked quite often. Can I list directly in Seller Central and use Sellware to manage my inventory and pricing information? Absolutely. Frequently you will run into items that are just really difficult to get listed through Sellware. Either they're gated by Amazon, or they're requiring just additional information and categories that's just too difficult to pass through the limited fields that you may have on your primary channel. So go ahead and set those up directly in Seller Central. Just make sure you tie it back to your SKU, and they will be linked automatically. We have a lot of folks that ask about repricing tools. Can we run repricing tools? Sure, absolutely. Push a new listing through Sellware, or use the Seller Central to create the listing, and then you can simply just turn off pricing at your global macro setting when you set up your Amazon template. There's a field there that says manage pricing. Turn that to no. So when we create a new listing, we'll submit the initial price, but after that, the repricing indexer can take care of running that for you. There are some special conditions around doing that you may want to consult with us on to make sure you set it up properly, but we do have a lot of folks using repricing tools. Now that FBA is becoming more popular, or more folks are taking advantage of FBA, can you use FBA and Sellware? You may have a combination of FBA items and merchant fulfilled items that you're doing yourself. So yes, we can operate in parallel. We don't manage the FBA items. We will just simply route orders through so that you can see that they occurred. If you're going to manage, new shipments and restock points with Amazon, you'll be doing that outside of Sellware, but you'll just simply see the items from FBA coming through. And instead of this particular icon, they'll have a darker gray colored background, just letting you know that was an FBA order. Nothing you really need to do with those. Those are just more information only. Another question we get a lot, is there a limit to the number of items or number of listings that I can have? No, we have sellers that have tens of thousands of items, some approaching hundreds of thousands. If you get into parent and children relationship, just some huge catalogs and huge number of listings on eBay and Amazon. It may ultimately affect the final pricing for your subscription, but with the advantages that we offer from managing these channels and not having to worry about stockouts and order flows and that sort of process, most of our clients think that is a very worthwhile investment. So hope you enjoyed this series. We covered a lot, so I'd recommend you also visit the sellware.com/learn section and our FAQs there as well to help you get started and be more successful on Amazon.